Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Tea Talks. And here we are. Today's Tea Talk is a fun one, and I want to share it with you because I think it is something that every business owner should know. If you work with clients as a coach or a consultant, um, really any sort of service business, and with my dad's business, which I'm going to tell you about, it was a product business. This is a rule that will change everything when it comes to your happiness in business. Good morning, everybody. And if you're watching in the replay, happy replay. This is called the no asshole rule. Now, one of the things that I have found from working with people, and I would say this is especially doctors, that's probably the number one place I hear it, but also to some extent therapists and coaches, anyone who works one on one with clients will start talking about their book, and immediately I notice they are terrified of clients. They're terrified of getting more clients. They're exhausted by clients. A lot of times, therapists or doctors will come to me and say, I just have to get out of one on one. I have to do group work. And look, I love group work. The reason I love working in groups is it gets better results. When I work one on one with people, it is a way for them to hide. No one's on the call but me and them, so no one will know if they don't do what they promised they would do. And it turns into a weird excuse factory. People tell me they're going to write a chapter, then we get on the call next week, they haven't written one, then we have a half an hour conversation about their kids' school schedule, and then eventually they promise that they're going to do it for next week, and then next week they had an epiphany and they decided they shouldn't write that chapter anyway, but now they've realized this is the thing they should do, and then we spend the whole hour talking about their epiphany, and then I send them away to go write something up on that, and then they come back and their kid got sick, and the next week they still haven't done it, and this goes on, and it's frankly exhausting and not satisfying at all. And so the solution, and it's a good solution, the solution a lot of people come up with is to go from one on one to group. But a lot of times the energy behind that is this idea of not getting close to your clients. I have a bunch of friends that are all seven-figure female entrepreneurs, and we did a couple trips together. We went to Richard Branson's safari lodge in South Africa, and then we went to his beach house in on Necker Island, or his beach island, I guess, on Necker Island. And on both of those trips, what most of the women were talking about was this concept of passive income, that they wanted to make money, but they didn't want to talk to anyone. They didn't want to know their clients. They didn't know their clients' names. They didn't know their clients' spouses' names. They didn't know their clients' pets, and they didn't want to. They just wanted to be a video on the other side of the screen, and you can watch it, and if you learn something, great, and if you don't, great. And they just didn't want to have to think about it ever again. And the reason they didn't want to think about it, and the reason that so many therapists and doctors tell me they want to go from one on one to group, is asshole clients. So you might be watching this in maybe you don't have any clients and you're like, I want to make sure prophylactically I don't get any asshole clients, because that sounds awful. But if you have ever, in this current business or in past businesses, been worried about, oh, when you sign up a client, is it going to be a pain in the ass? If you've been worried and thinking, one-on-one to group was the solution, which in part it is. I'd love to hear from you in the chat. So just share with me and just put the hashtag replay if you're on the replay. Then I get alerted and I can comment as well. If you're familiar with this concept, and if you have found that consciously or subconsciously you have been maybe sabotaging sales, because you might end up with clients that are going to suck up your time in your life and call you and bother you and ask annoying questions. If that is you at all, I would love to hear about it. I definitely hear about it a lot when people's books come out and they're worried, like, who is going to reach me? So I want to share with you a technique that I learned from my dad. And I remember learning this. You know that poem, Children Learn What They Live? We had that like in our kitchen somewhere. This was one of those children learn what they live moments. I was working. My dad sold hot rods. I was like sold, sells, sold. It's so weird that he doesn't do it anymore. He did retire, but my dad sold hot rods, 1927 to 1934 Ford replicas. He did some cars that you probably know, like the T-Bucket in Van Halen's Hot for Teacher video. And when somebody buys that kind of custom car, even though they're not a coaching client, it turns out now I can see how similar those things are. So when somebody buys a car, I remember when he hit his 1,000th car, and I remember when I hit our 1,000th book. Actually, I can tell you the exact day. It was June 1st, 2019 when we hit our 1,000th book, and I remember it. You remember every car. If you're mass producing Toyota Corollas, obviously you have no idea who's driving the Toyota Corollas you made. But when you've sold 1,000 cars, which my dad did between 1973 and 1987, I think that was when he sold his 1,000th car. You could probably Google it, Mickey Loria 1,000th car. It was all over the hot rod trade press. You know all 1,000 of those clients. You care about them. You know who their spouses are. You know whether there's going to be a dog in the back seat of the car. Cars are very personal, especially a custom car. And so I was working at my dad's shop, and I had this job. I'm not sure why I had this job, but for a long time, my job was to go through boxes, huge boxes of nuts and bolts. And then I had this, it looked kind of like a plastic ruler, and I would stick the nuts in, or I would stick the bolts in, and it would tell me what size it was. And then once I knew what size it was, there was a whole wall that had all different size hardware, and I would have to sort the hardware. So 3/8 of an inch bolt, and I would put it there, and I would do this. And I got paid per piece. So I'd get paid a penny a piece, and I had to count how many I did, and then I would get paid. And I was sorting nuts and bolts, which was my job. And I overheard my dad talking to this guy on the phone. And he said, "Yeah, but you're not hearing me. I'm not selling you a car." And then there was silence. And then my dad's like, "But you're an asshole. I can already tell you're an asshole. And I've got a no asshole rule." And I had no idea what he was saying. And I'm just, yeah, I mean, I knew what he was saying, but I didn't know what this meant because I obviously didn't have clients. I just had nuts and bolts to sort. And I'm sorting my nuts and bolts. And I hear my dad get into a fight with a guy. I don't do this part of the no asshole rule. But here's this guy begging my dad to take 15 grand for a down payment for a custom hot rod. And my dad's like, "I'm not taking your money. I can already tell you're going to be a headache. It's going to be the most expensive $15,000 I ever receive. You're going to call me all times of the day and night. You're going to have dumb fucking questions I don't feel like answering. You are going to be no fun for me to work with. And I can tell this in the purchase process because how you do anything is how you do everything. So I can already tell. I can 100% feel your vibe. My dad did not use those words for sure. I can feel your vibe. I don't want your vibe in my life. And I know by saying no to this money, no matter what my finances look like this month, when I say no to this money, I create space for delicious money. When I say yes, I create space for more assholes. And this is exactly what happens in most coaches' businesses. So, coach businesses, therapist business, doctors' businesses, you feel like, well, I'm in business. I guess I have to take these clients. But it turns out you don't. So, I'm going to tell you a couple recent stories. And you'll watch this if you watch me in this group event, how fast I kick people out of this group. Because I know, like, I'm definitely not giving you my wisdom if I find you to be an asshole. So, there was somebody who signed up for a program with us, and she was super nice. She did a great application. I accepted her application. I closed her over the phone. There was a weird thing right before the call where she sent a couple weird emails like, I can't find the Zoom room. Can you resend me the link? But they weren't that weird. Look, I've lost a Zoom link before a call. It was like maybe a baby, teeny tiny baby red flag. But there was something weird about the way it was worded, but I was like, maybe English isn't her second language. Let me give her a pass. Then she was fine. She signed up no problem, but she couldn't pay on the phone because she needed to do a wire transfer. Now, this happens. Our program's expensive, and so a lot of people do like to do a wire transfer. Frankly, if ever I have the option, I like to pay on a credit card, get the miles or the points, and then just do a wire transfer to myself and pay the credit card bill off before I pay any interest on it. But anyway, some people like to do wire transfers. So when they do that, I transfer them to my husband, who's also our CFO and my business partner, and he does the wire transfer because I don't know how to fucking do that. So I send him to her, and he took her payment, and he said to me, "Oh, she's going to be a handful, huh?" And I was like, "That email, what happened?" And he's like, "Oh, she couldn't use that when she couldn't do this, then she couldn't, and then she said this, but it's okay, I got it sorted out, don't worry about it." And I was like, "Okay, now you've got two little red flags. The first weird email that you couldn't find the Zoom link, which makes me think you're going to be a pain in the ass. And then my husband saying you were kind of a pain in the ass. I don't like it." And then she came on a coaching call, and I gave her feedback she didn't like, and she privately messaged someone on my team and basically said she didn't like my coaching. Bye. Immediately refunded. It was less than 24 hours after the purchase. 3 red flags, and they were little red flags. They were nothing. You could argue, one could definitely argue, you could have a call with her and tell her Angela has Asperger's and this is how she coaches, and you should take the morsels and the stuff that hurts your feelings, use it as an opportunity, and here are some great resources on working with people with Asperger. Like, no, fuck off. Take your money, go the fuck away. No assholes. Now, there's a huge benefit to this because the whole group is asshole free. Anyone who's a pain in the ass, an attention hog, somebody who asks dumb questions, they've already been weeded out. So if you are going from one-on-one to group, and I'll do a training on that in here, maybe even next week if you guys want. If you are going from one-on-one to group, the no asshole rule is even more important because one asshole can pull down your whole group, as you probably know because you've been in those groups. But if you're working one-on-one, saying no to people who your heart and your gut tell you right at the beginning they're going to be a jerk, trusting your gut is so key to loving your business. I'll tell you another story. This was a guy, and sometimes these are confusing. I messed this one up, and you'll see what happens. This was a guy who came to me, and he had a different book than we normally do, but it was a tech book. And it was the kind of book I used to do when I was a ghostwriter, and I loved these books, and I really liked him, and I knew what to do with the book. But technically, he was like a pain in the ass in the application process and the interview process because nothing lined up with him. So, is this resonating with you guys? Go ahead and share in the comments if this is helpful. So, nothing lined up. We were talking about coaching. He's like, I'm not a coach. I build software. We were talking about consulting. He was like, I am going for a major acquisition. I'm already talking to companies that might purchase from me. But I was like, nah, I get what he wants. I get what he wants. Sign him up. He was super happy to pay, came to all the calls, but nobody on my team could handle him but me. No one knew what he was talking about. He was out of the loop. So everyone thought he was an asshole, but I didn't because I liked his topic. So for me, he was like kind of refreshing, right? Then he shows up at our live event, and I seat him next to one of our authors. Many of our authors are very beautiful, but I seat him next to Kara Heilman, who's particularly gorgeous, and she's pretty. She's an amazing, successful career coach. She's very savvy. She like went to Ivy League business schools. Like she's super hip. And I sit her next to him because I know she knows business. So even though, like, I know she can handle it, even though he's not like in our sweet spot of normal clients, that she would be able to have a rapport with him. And one of the first things he says to her is something about sitting. I'd love it if you sat on my lap. And so Kara, who's super cool, mentions this. Like, she doesn't mention it to him. She mentions it to someone on my team. And we're like, red flag. We've been red flagging this guy the whole time. The team has. But I'm like, I like him. I can handle him. But the whole team's like, red flag, Angela, red flag. And I'm like, I like him. I got it. But the team's like, we don't got it. And so that happened on the first day, and my whole team was like, should we kick him out of this event? I'm like, nah, Kara can handle it. It's fine. I'll talk to him. He'll be fine. And then I did a Q&A section, and he was like really just beating me up in the Q&A. And nothing I said he would accept. And then the next day he came back and there was more. He said something inappropriate to someone else. He kept talking over me when I was teaching. All of the women there were super uncomfortable. And my rule is we do no refunds. We are a strictly no refund company if you ask for a refund. But if I hate you, I will give you a refund just to make you leave. But at this point, we'd spent months with this guy. I personally edited his book. Nobody else could work with him. So he took up 5 times more energy than anyone else. And now there's 1 day left. Then my team gets together and they're like, look, we don't think he should come for day 3. And I'm like, if I kick him out, I have to refund him. There's 1 day left, plus we still had to do some other stuff. We had to do some edits. And they're like, really think you should refund him. really think you should refund him. I'm like, we can make it through one more day. So the final day was a disaster. It ruined the entire event. The next 2 weeks were horrible. And he did chargebacks, slammed us in social media, called a bunch of my clients and complained about me. And it cost me so much more than refunding him would have. So much more than refunding him. Oh my God. Like 10 times more. The best way to get rid of assholes is on the application before you take their money. For sure. Do not take money from assholes. If you get a ping that somebody is going to be a pain in the ass, I promise you, the world is abundant. There is more money out there. You will call in 2 awesome clients by rejecting that one before they buy. However, if you fuck up and you take money from an asshole, like I did with the first example I gave you, the second you know they're an asshole. And for me, that's private messaging my team to bitch about me. So you don't want to, you're a client, you don't want to post it in the Facebook group. Everyone knows Angela has Asperger's. Everyone knows that Angela is a tough coach. But you don't want to post it. You want to privately complain about me and try and get my employee to get me to suddenly act differently. Good fucking luck. I can't get me to act differently. I annoy myself. I got to take the good parts with the bad parts. So that's how this show goes. The minute that you can refund someone. And here is why. Because it gets harder and harder with every day that passes. When you've done hours and hours of calls and editing, and then the person says, hey, little girl, would you sit on my lap? Then you're like, I could put up with a pervy old dude. Whatever, there are pervy old dudes. Because you're fucking pot committed, and now you're complicit. How you do anything is how you do everything. And that is true for your clients too. Don't take their money. If you take it, refund them very quickly. And if you have to, refund them on their second to last day. If that is the moment that you wake up, then just know the return to you will be sevenfold. You will still, even on the second to last day, you will still save so much money by giving someone a refund and letting them go. Merry meet, merry part, merry meet again. And so it is. So that is the no asshole rule, and I learned it from my dad, who's in the Hot Rod Hall of Fame, and even though he's a Trump voter, and I am no longer speaking to Trump voters, and Trump people who continue to support the big lie and the overthrow of democracy and America. I will say I learned so much, and I'm so grateful and so filled with love for my dad, who I'm choosing not to speak to, because I had so many great lessons in entrepreneurship just by sitting in the background, sorting nuts and bolts. And one day, when I refunded a client, I remembered that conversation. I remember my dad saying, what part of this aren't you understanding? I'm not taking your money. And that is what I leave you with today. You can have a business you love. You can love every single one of your clients. You can have intimacy. There's not a client of mine that I wouldn't want to share a king-size bed with in a hotel room if we ever get to go to hotel rooms again. I want you to know your clients. I want you to love your clients. I want you to enjoy every minute with them, even when they're being assholes. Because the no asshole rule doesn't mean your clients are never assholes. I'm an asshole sometimes. We're all assholes sometimes. But when somebody is going to disrupt a group and disrupt an energy and not just have a bad minute here or there, which is a different thing, it's never going to be worth whatever you charge. You can't charge enough money for your sanity. So remember that as you go into this week. Tell me what else you'd love to learn from me. Maybe we'll do a class on converting from one-on-one to many. If you want to hear that, go ahead and put hashtag replay if you are watching this on the replay. Share your thoughts, share your crazy client stories, and remind us all that it's okay to say no to blood money, money that we will regret having. They're great to have you guys here. Have an amazing day, and I will talk to you all next week on Tea Talk.